In the following tutorial, we're going to take a look at basic timeline targeting. Now, we're going to be targeting some object or animation rather, that's on the main timeline, and we're also going to be targeting an animation that's in a movie clip instance timeline. So what we're going to also be creating is basic function event listener pairs to turn on and off this light bulb. So if we look at the animation, here's what we have. At the beginning of the movie, it's going to be stopped, so it won't play forward. Then we have a section here that starts at frame 8 or so, and that is where the first light is going to turn on. Then it stops at the end of this. Then it starts in the next keyframe, and it's going to play forward and then stop again. So that's where the light is turning off. Now if we look at the movie clip timeline for the other light bulb, we'll see that we already have that structure in here as well, where you have an on section and then we have an off section. You'll also notice that this one has labels, and we'll be talking about those labels in just a second. Now, the other thing that's really important about this is notice that this is the same sort of structure as movie clip buttons, if you remember those, where you have a stop, then you have an animation that plays and then stops, and then a new animation that plays and stops. Make sure that you do not have your stops at the keyframes where you are starting the animation over again, because that would actually disable your animation from playing. So your stops cannot be where the animation actually happens. Anyway, back on our main timeline, let's go back. It's very important that you have labels so that you can tell what's going on at each section. So you'll notice that I have a labels track, and that's always a good thing for you to have. And I'm going to go ahead and start by putting in my start label, and you'll notice that even though I have code here, and that code right now is just the basic stop that I have there, I can have a label on it. And this is okay because we're at the start section, but all the other ones we do not want code and our label to be at the very beginning or on the same frame, because that will of course disable it. So when I go to the next section, you'll see I'll create my label for on, and notice that that flag is right over the top of the keyframe, whereas on the other one there's code that's before it. You want in general to see your labels where they have the flag right above the keyframe, especially when you have an animation that you're going to be playing there. Then for the next section, we're going to have off there. And it's really important that you have these labels instead of using keyframes that you're jumping to actual frame numbers. Labels are a much smarter way to go. So that's what we're going to do in basically every tutorial that does this. Now, we're also going to be putting code on our actions layer. So let's go ahead and create our first function event listener pair just to turn on the first light. And then I think you'll be able to target the next objects, the off and on and off as well. So let's create our first function. Function turn light 1 on. We need some sort of event that's passed to that, which will be a mouse event. And then we're going to make sure that we don't pass anything back after the function has run. We'll put in our curly brackets, go down a couple lines, and finish that. And this is going to be targeting this light 1 on. It's going to be targeting the main timeline. So I'll say this dot go to and play, and then just the on section. Sorry about that. Sometimes this keyboard gets me. Now we need an event listener that will actually run that function. So I need to target the correct button. If I look at that, the right button is the turn light 1 on btn. Of course, I could use the other thing, but I need an event listener. Mouse event dot click. And then we have to run that function, so I'm going to copy and paste that function, which is always a good idea. And so we should now have that targeting the correct object. So that indeed does target the correct object. Now, in order to make this work for the next one, we're going to have to target something a little different. So save your work and go on to the next tutorial.